squatting. This is another important pattern we see a lot in natural movement, and it's important for a lot of reasons. One, it ensures that we have full range of motion and stability in our hips, knees, and ankles, right? If we're lacking a level of function there, we're limited, right, in performance, right? It has a direct limited mobility directly affects performance. And then also safety, right? Being able to have a full range of motion and stability in the hips, ankles, and knees allows us to do things without the risk of injury or increased risk of injury. For instance, if I only have a squat pattern that allows me to only drop down to this depth, if I were to come from a height or step off of something and I could only lower myself that much, then I'm, potentially risking falling or injuries to joints, right? Where if I have the ability to decelerate more and put that force into my muscles, the safer my landings will be. And for the bigger body, we tend to avoid squatting from time to time, because of the fear of, again, getting up. Like, do we have the ability to go low? And just like we saw in our prone get up series, let's take that top down approach, right? So, finding a series of boxes or some kind of bolster that allows you to work down, right? Can we maintain that spinal integrity, right? Can we keep that rib cage anchored? And when we think about, the bigger body, there's going to be a lot of pull, right? If we have excess abdominal weight, it's going to pull on that lumbar spine, right? And we're going to tend to be here. So really thinking that rib cage not up, but kind of down and bracing that core, really getting that transverse abdominis to work for us. And because we have so much more to manage and so much more potential abdominal mass, that tends to weaken core musculature. So it's that much more of an important factor to really strengthen that, right? As we're especially going through motion, right? So, thinking about what's that good squat pattern look like? And for us, the hips and shoulders are traveling at the same time, right? Keeping that pelvis in neutral, watching any pelvic tuck, so posterior or excessive anterior tilt, right? And just kind of keeping it in neutral, right? If we need to kind of sit back and use a little bit of forward lean to help us, that's okay, just as long as we feel those hips and shoulders rising at the same time. Another thing we tend to see with bigger bodies is a lot of external rotation of the feet. And that limits, again, that range of motion in the calf and ankle, but then also it doesn't get the glutes to fire as effectively. Our glutes do really well when, from a firing or activation standpoint, when our toes are more forward, right? And so when we're squatting, look down at your feet. Are you kind of turned out or are you straight ahead? And when we say straight, let's think that middle toe is going to be our straight ahead, right? So as we go down, being mindful of our feet. If they start to turn out, bring it back in, right? And progressing through this, thinking, okay, I did 10 reps. Great. That was relatively easy. Let's lower that stack down, right? So going a little lower, thinking, keeping that core nice and braced, right? Toes forward, and using 10 as a good sign, right? Okay, I did 10. Can I lower my depth even more so? And however many bolsters you need, just progress it, right? Now I'm starting to get a little bit more of that deep squat, right? Another consideration is circumference, right? So if I have huge beefy legs, big calves, a little bit more here in the midsection, that tissue is going to compress, and that's going to limit how deep our squat can be, right? Something I learned is the average thigh for males is 21 inches in its circumference. For point of reference, my calves are 18 inches. So my calves are almost as big as the average circumference of a male's thigh. So, we see some of those people with that really good low squat where their butt is basically touching the ground. That's not going to happen for me, right? At least not right now. Um, so are we comfortable in that depth is really the big thing, because the squat can be a rest position, and working through that, but also acknowledging that mass is mass, meat is meat, and compression is compression, right? So we might not be able to get as low as we see some others in the natural movement world, or the fitness world in general. But how low can we get, and how comfortable can we be in those positions? And once we feel that we have a lot of good control and stability in those deeper depths, right, then we can start to talk about squat get up. So we have that strength, we're feeling good, moving our body through that full range of motion, wherever it may be. And once we get there, and we've kind of mastered that, right, we feel really good with that progression of squatting, right, then we can talk about squat get-ups. And again, same thing, finding that bolster, so right here, that was kind of my end range on this box here, and I can sit comfortably like that, right? So now I can start to think about, rocking back, and not thinking about getting up, not thinking about that turnover, just can I rock back, hanging my feet off, and feeling comfortable in that rest squat. If that feels pretty good, then I can rock back, shoot those hands forward, get my center of mass over that base of support, and then stand up, right? Again, squatting down, rocking back, getting those hands forward, standing up, and again, working through this, working up to 5 or 10 reps. And if we've mastered those 5 or 10 reps, then we've earned that progression, right? So I can move this mat off to the side. And how does that slightly deeper squat feel, right? A little bit more momentum, getting that turnover, and working through those progressions and taking that top-down approach, right? So again, whether it's a squat or the squat get up, starting high, working low, building up that strength slowly.